Shalom, guys. So I'm doing a video back to back, one from yesterday and another one today, but they're going to be completely different, not talking about the same topic, but rather I wanted to kind of break down the concepts and models of this Otiot pictographic language. And for those that are familiar with the pictographs in the ancient times, there are different meanings to different pictures. Just like when a child draws a picture, they don't know a language yet. Their language is drawing what they see around them. That is their way of communication, and that's how it was in the beginning. So it's interesting that that's what children do in the beginning of their lives as well. But what I specifically want to do here is break down the 22 pictographs and show you not just the child models, but also the more intense adult models that Abba Father Yahweh has been teaching me during the duration of the time that I've been learning about his ancient language. So let's start off with 1, which is aleph, number 1. You can see that, okay? And aleph is the ox, okay? So we don't see much of this today here in the Americas and in some other countries. But you go to more poverty type of countries and you will see that when they're plowing a field, they use oxen. So you've got 2 oxen that are plowing together, and they have a yoke between both of them. And one is the leader and the other one follows. This is like our relationship with Abba Father Yahweh. In fact, aleph is the first pictograph for his name, or I should say his title, mighty Elohim. This is the pictograph aleph for El, or Elohim, and we'll get to the Lamed after a while, because that's farther down the path, if you will, of the order in which I'm going in for these pictographs. So aleph has to do with being the head, being the big honcho, okay? It has to do with Abba Father Yahweh. This is really what this pictograph is. He is the first. He is the head honcho. You want to be yoked to him, just like both those oxen are yoked to each other and they're plowing through that field together. You want to be taught by your headship. And he symbolizes, this pictograph symbolizes strength. I don't know about you, but have you ever been to a rodeo? Oh boy, I feel sorry for them oxen that these people ride. I don't know, I think they're just crazy or asking for a death wish, one or the other, maybe both. But they get in there and they get that ox all sorts of riled up and bucking and everything, and they make it real mad. And you know, that's what happens when we make Abba Yahweh mad. Okay? He wants to buck us and get us off of him, and you know, you don't want to make Yahweh, your Elohim, angry. All right? So that's what this pictograph here represents. Next, we're going to go to Beit, the house. So when you look at a floor plan of a house, even to this day, okay, you will see rooms and doorways. So if we take this pictograph and we lay it down on a table, it will look very similar to the layout of a home, okay? Abba Yahweh is amazing, just brilliant. But Beit is number 2. Okay, so aleph was 1, this is 2. And it has to do with not just your physical house that we live in and dwell in, but our spiritual bodies as well. And he dwells inside of us if we pitch our tent with him. It has to do with the bloodline of Yeshua. So when we see Bane, okay, that's a Hebrew word for children or man. It's the word Bane, and it's Beit Nun, and it means the house of the seed. So it doesn't specifically mean a man or a woman or child. It's all of the above, and it means having the seed dwelling in the house. So you want to have this the seeds of truth dwelling inside of your house. That's what you want. So let's see here. And this also has to do with gathering a family. Okay, so that's what families do when they come together. They gather around. They gather into the homes. Okay, so that's what this pictograph kind of breaks down to. And I don't know any other models at this point. He shows me different things at different times. So far, this is all that he's really shown me with these two pictographs. But when we get farther down the line, there's going to be some ones that he's shown me a lot. The next one I wanted to go to is Gimel. Okay, so Gimel is the foot. All right, so if you can imagine, this looks like a check mark. That's what my husband, when we started going through these, and I'd say, okay, Matt, what does this look like? He's like, a check mark. and it does look like that, but in this particular case, this is a foot, and it's the Otiot name Gimel. So what Gimel represents is, what are we doing with our feet? Where are we going? Where are we traveling? How do we spread messages? Now, yes, we have technology and we have, other forms of delivering messages today, like what I'm doing with y'all right now. But before technology came into effect, like with these digital platforms that we have today, people delivered messages by foot. Okay? So this particular pictograph is number 3. And it has to do with the Father's Ruach dwelling inside of us. It has to do with our walk. It has to do with gathering together. If you want to gather for a feast or gather for some type of celebration, your feet have to take you to that gathering. All right, and it also has to do with, like I said, being a messenger. Okay, so I'm going to tie this one in with Dalit for a second, and I'll explain why I'm feeling led to do this. So these two pictographs, and I'll tell you the model to this one, and then I'll get into what I wanted to discuss. So if we're spreading messages, okay, we're delivering these messages. All right, when you deliver messages, you deliver them to people's houses where they're dwelling. You deliver them to their front door. Okay, so the door is Yeshua. Yeshua is the door. Okay, doors have to do with moving in and out. We have multiple doorways. I need to skip forward on my thing here. Okay, multiple doorways on our physical bodies, spiritual bodies, along with our houses. Okay, windows are kind of a form of a door as well. So, but everywhere that we see here in the physical manifests to the spiritual. I sound like a broken record with that, but it does. You can't have one without the other. And so we have these Otiot pictograph models everywhere in our lives. You absolutely cannot live in this world without any of these pictographs being a part of your life. It's completely 100% impossible. So the door, when you spread messages, okay, you go to the doors to spread those messages. Now, what do troops do when they're conquering a nation, when they're going to raid a country that they want to dwell in? They stomp their feet and they deliver a message saying, get out or we're going to burn down your houses. In most cases, they burn down people and they burn down the houses, and they take over. Okay? They, instead of knocking on the door, they kick down that door. They kick down the door and they let themselves in, and they destroy everything in their sight, and they take it over. That's what the enemy does. He wants to knock down our doors and come in a way that he wasn't invited. But Yeshua, he wants you to open up that door so he can walk in to your house. So you know the difference between the enemy. Now I'm going to transition to the next thing, okay? These two pictographs are the word that most people refer to as our Father, God. The problem is that God is not a bad name if it's used in its proper context. Now let me explain before anybody gets irritated or whatever. There is always a positive and a negative to every pictograph. Okay, so we have the tribe of God. It's not pronounced Gad. People always try to do that because they feel uncomfortable saying God. I know, because I did that. But what I've learned is God is the short form of the enemy, of Gadriel. That's right. Gadriel. Okay? He is the deceiver in the garden who deceived Adam and Hawa, Adam and Eve. And what he's been doing ever since is he has been spreading lies. He is a troop coming into countries and kicking down those doorways. Okay? Gimel, G, D, Dalet, God. Okay? You don't have vowels in Hebrew. They didn't exist. So this is God. And that is how the enemy breaks in and steals. Okay? God, or Gadriel, has been kicking down doors and conquering nations and stealing and killing and destroying people and their houses by knocking down their doors for centuries and centuries and centuries, for a long time. So if you are referring to Hashatan, the devil, you are referring to the Malach who was cast down from the Shamayim heavens by Abba Father Yahweh, and he has deceived people into believing that his name is God. So what I mean is, Gadriel has been deceiving people for a long time by calling our Maker his own nickname. Now, with the tribe of God, okay, they were good messengers. They were good messengers for Abba Father Yahweh, but if they chose to do the opposite of what their tribe was meant to do, then they chose to spread messages to spread messages for the enemy. This is where people get confused. There's always negative and positive. You can spread good messages or you can spread bad messages. So that was what the tribe of God was all about. Either spreading the good or the bad, depending on who they chose to serve as a tribe. All tribes have a purpose, a model. We are all one body in Yeshua, in our Messiah. But every tribe had a purpose and a position of what their duties were. And that was, in this case, the duty of the tribe of God, was they were supposed to spread good messages. But when referring to the enemy, Gadriel, he chose to not spread good messages anymore, to not be a Tov Melach. He decided to do the negative part of his name that Abba Father Yahweh gave him. So Gadriel, or God, is not a bad name whatsoever. It's not. it becomes bad when you don't use it in the appropriate context. Okay, so I hope I'm not beating a dead horse here, but I wanted to explain that because they come together. And that is what the enemy has been doing, is people are calling our maker God, but they don't know. They don't know that they are calling on Satan's name, for that's just a title. They don't know that they're calling on his name. And so I wanted to explain that out of love, because people just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. In fact, I didn't know for years that I just never ever said God ever out of my mouth, because I thought, oh no, that's sin. That's not okay. I can't say that. That's blasphemy. But it's not. It's not, because if I'm using it in replace of Abba Father Yahweh's name, then yes, absolutely, it's wrong. But if I'm using it to refer to the enemy or to the tribe, it's okay. It's all about context, okay? So we're going to move on past that, but I always thought that was very interesting when Abba Father Yahweh explained to me this. It was just a major eye-opener for me to realize that that this is what the enemy has done. Abba Father Yahweh's name has been replaced by Satan's name in thousands of places in our scriptures. And it was all purposeful. Treasure is meant to be dug for. If you want to find the true treasure and the true meaning to life, Abba Father Yahweh will open up those doors for you, and he'll allow you to see the truth in all things if you seek him with all your heart. Okay, so now let me just, I'm going to get Dalet back over here. So Dalet, like I said, is the door, and Yeshua doesn't want to bang down the doors. He wants you to welcome him in, okay? So Dalet is a movement of back and forth of the door. It also has to do with, I'm looking at my bathroom door right here, but it also has to do with dangling. A door dangles on hinges, okay? And then it also has to do with 4 dimensions of space and time, so the different spiritual doors that you open, and there's different spirits, so that way doors can be open for you to see into the spiritual realm, okay? So, but when it comes to our body, our bait, there are models. In fact, all the Otiot goes to our bodies. Now, what I mean by that is the word that we read was in these pictographs initially. It was in these pictographs. Yeshua is the living word, and these pictographs are him in the physical, but he is in the spiritual. So, and when he dwells in us, we are the temple. When he dwells in us, that means that his pictographs, his living word, his written word, is actually written on our inward parts. Like, no joke, okay? So how I'm going to explain this is Dalet. I'll give you some models. So I'm going to take my glasses off here for a second. I'm going to look into my eyes. Okay, that was creepy. But we have different doorways on our bodies. So our eyelids, okay, when we wake up in the morning, our eyes are closed during the night, but when we wake up, we open the doorways of our eyes, which is our eyelids, okay? So that is one doorway that gets opened every morning when we wake up. All right, our earlobes, or this part right here, okay? This, if you don't want to hear your kids screaming or somebody yelling at you, you shut your doors to your ears and you can't really hear them very well. Okay, so there's another model for a doorway. Your ears. Your ears, your eyes, your sweat glands, okay, your skin, all right? Your skin breathes. It breathes in, it breathes out, okay? It's a form of detoxification. So, let's see what else. So little itty bitty doorways in our skin that allow us to breathe, and that's where that door swings both ways. That's kind of funny. The door swings both ways when it comes to the sweat glands, but now your eyelids, I guess you can kind of see that the door, it swings both ways also. Your earlobes, I guess not really so much, but then we go into some more deeper models and concepts. And if you have a child watching this, you might want to turn the volume down or send them out of the room or whatever, because a lot of these models and concepts are focused on the physical body and the body parts. And that's where I'm going to go to next with this next one. All right, so we have holes in our body. Not just the holes, the little itty bitty holes in our arms, for the sweat glands. We also have our mouth, okay? And we also have things that we excrete other, I guess, how do I put this without being too blunt? I don't know how to, I guess I'll get better as I'm doing the video, but a way of purging toxins out of our bodies. So we have our mouth. We also have bowel movements that come out of that particular area. And so that is a door in and of itself. You also have the doorway, and this can go really, really deep, but I'm not gonna emphasize on that too much. So when a woman is a mother and she has just had a child, when a child is looking for nourishment, it has to feed from her teats, her breasts, okay? And in the breasts of a mother is where the child seeks nourishment and milk, okay? And that can go really deep. That is what we want as humans. We want to seek the unadulterated milk from our Maker. And so, just like a child, we want to go to Him and get that non-toxic nourishment from Him. And so you have those holes in the woman's breast areas, but so that's doors. But the breasts themselves actually are doors too. In fact, the name Dawid is the pictographs dalit, and it means to dangle, which is interesting if you think about the story of Dawid and the topic of adultery and all that stuff. His name literally means to dangle like breasts. So anyways, so that's another concept there. Then we have when a woman is a maiden and she has not became echad or one with anyone, she has a piece of skin that is inside of her canal. We'll just call it the canal. The abyss, if you will, and there's a piece of skin there that is only temporary until she becomes one, and that is where the lamed, and I'll get into that later on. The lamed is also the male reproductive organ, and the lamed goes into the door and they become one together. So that is it for Dalit. So basically, to explain the puncturing of lamed into the door, is the enemy can come in and get in that door just as much as Yahweh can. So that's where it's really important to be careful who you allow to enter the doorway of your body as women. You have to be careful because you don't want to have the wrong lamed enter you if that lamed is yoked to the lamed of Baal, aka Gabriel Hashatan. So, alright, we're going to go to the next one. The next one is, hey! hey. Okay. There's this movie off of we have a movie night that we do once a week, and back in the day we had watched this movie, and it's off of a Christian streaming thing that we do to try and guard the doorways of our eyes from seeing inappropriate things. So we try to watch things that we deem as being more kosher and appropriate for our eyes to see and ears to hear. But in that movie, there's a white girl, and it has to do with her learning the black culture. And it's really, really funny. But they're in a grocery store, and a couple black people came together, and they go, hey, hey, and then all of a sudden all these black people in the store are dancing, and it's hilarious. We love this movie, and I'm trying to think of what it's called right now. I can't even think of what it is, but maybe I'll think of it by the end of the video. But she tries to do it, and her black friend, it's the coworker who's training her how to work for the black culture, and he's like, no, honey, you can't do that. No, we're not going to do that. So it's just funny seeing this white girl, trying to blend in with all the black folks, and she's just like, she just didn't fit in with it. It was just hilarious. So moving on, but anyway, so hey has to do with us, mankind, okay? His people are like the stars in the Shamaim, and that goes deep. Now this card I made myself, okay? Hey, all right, now this is a little different form. You can see, obviously, it has another foot, but hey is also a symbol for the star, and I'm not going to go into a category where some might take this, but I used to think that stars were pagan, they were bad, they weren't okay, because the enemy has taken that star and he has corrupted it. But Yahweh created the stars, okay? So if you look at, there's so many scripture verses. I looked up star and did some research in that particular category. And yeah, the enemy, he works through man as well. But if you see in the story of Abraham, he is told by Abba Father Yahweh that we will be as numerous as the stars in the Shamaim, and that is so deep. I could go into that way deeper in another video, but people were in awe of things they did not know. The stars were signs for people to know when to plant and when to know the signs of the times, and so he showed me also, this is the other pictograph to a video I probably done a few of them now that have to do with Hey Lamed and Halal and what man is praising, okay? But it has to do with being in awe, just like, can you imagine if you saw an asteroid coming out of the sky? You would be like, you'd be in awe. So that's what, that's one of the definitions for Hey. It has to do with the fifth dimension of Ruach, spirit, and Abba, spirit, working within you. And then it also has to do with sighing. And I'm trying to think here what else. Oh, so what he recently showed me was not only is this the star that we see, okay, that is a model of man, but if you look at a star, you will see that it's got 5 points to it. Well, so do we. We have our head, we have our arms, and we have our legs, okay? And the 5 senses of our bodies are another thing. So we have 5 senses, okay? Let's see if I can remember them all. So we have touch, taste, feel, Oh wait, that's touch. Oh my gosh, I'm probably gonna mess them up. Somebody can correct me on here. Um, um, yeah, I'm just gonna stop there because I'm not okay. Touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. Okay, so that's I guess that's kind of all I'm going to say about that. I could go into it a little bit more, but those are some more adult concepts. And then let's go to number 6. Okay, this one is wah. Okay, this is the tent peg, or a nail, a hook. When you have your bait, your house, your tent secured down, like during the feast of Sukkot, or booths, you have your tent that you put down in the field, and then you take one of these and you secure it down into the ground so a storm doesn't come and blow it away, which is interesting because that's what happened to us one year. A storm came and it blew down our tent. It's very interesting. But Wa also has another adult model. It also has to do with a man and a woman entering each other, and so it's kind of it's another form of lamed. Okay, you also see this in trees. Trees, actually, I realized that I didn't put that in here. Hay also describes trees. And when you read scripture, you see that a lot of times we are likened unto trees and praising. Well, if you look outside, I'm looking outside at this big tree we have here, and you will see that there is a big trunk. Well, that trunk is lamed, and then you see that it spreads out. Okay? It spreads out, and then you have all these limbs, and the limbs are also wah, and they're also yod, and we haven't gotten to yod yet, but you can see a lot of the pictographs in trees themselves. So that is all I'm going to say about that one. And 7. All right, 7 is zayin. Okay, and zayin has to do with a plowing tool. Okay, so plowing tool, when you have 2 oxen together, like at the beginning with aleph 1, there was a plowing tool that was behind those oxen, and it plowed into the dirt, and it put the seed into, or the seed got put into the dirt after the plow went through it. Okay, so this adult model for this one is a model of 2 people coming together and becoming one. 7 has to do with being a spiritual man, digging into the word, being fruitful and spreading the good seed, which is the model of intercourse. You want to spread the good seed and not the bad seed. You don't want to enter into a relationship with someone and produce heirs for the enemy through that person, like what happened in the Garden of Eden. You had Cain and Abel, and one of them spread good seeds and the other one did not. And then it also has to do with remembering Shabbat, the 7th day. Okay, and 7 has to do with being completion. All right, so that's all we're going to do with that one. Next, 8. Chet. Okay, chet is a fence. We have fences all over. What do we put fences up for? To keep our cattle in, or our animals, protect our family. In ancient times, they probably would have put some of these fences up. Now, another model is a ladder, but we can look at it this way for right now. So, a fence, they would have used, something like this from the trees that they cut down, but they also would have used, like things with thorns and briars to be a hedge of protection. This has to do with being a hedge of protection. So this has to do with dividing and separating. Yeshua said, I came to bring division, to separate. Okay? And I'm just going to touch on this real quickly. Our bodies, our skin that's on top in our bodies, okay, that's covering up our organs, is a form of a fence. It is protecting what's on the inside, kind of like our ribs protect the heart and the soul. And it is a form of protection. So when you look into the pictographs, when it has to do with life and famine, they considered the stomach to be life to the body. And when famine hit, for some reason the pictographs used was, I think it was yod, chet. And that means that our organs don't work by us telling them to work. They work by the hand of Yahweh. So it was his hand that formed the womb. It's his hand that formed the organs and everything inside of there. And he used a fence, our ribs and our skin, to protect everything on the inside. Let's see here. This also has to do with moon cycles. The different phases of the moon used for planting season. That's what the moon is for planting seasons. And then Abba showed me this last year, and he showed me negative forms of chet along with positive forms, because every pictograph has one or the other. It just depends on the situation. But the White House, the pillars that are in front of the White House, he showed me, they also have those models, and you typically see them in Greek cathedrals, and you'll see them at the courthouse as well. They will have something that looks like this pictograph, and courthouses and the court systems are supposed to protect. And a lot of times that's not what happens in this day and age. There is no justice. There is no, what's a better word to use, because that's actually, there has some pagan origins in that particular word, but court systems are not always doing the right thing. And so just as our government system, we have a heavenly government, if you will, and we have an earthly government. And the earthly government is run by man, and they don't always do what is right. And so the government can be a fence, a walled in place where we're not protected. But when we're protected by the walls and the fences of Yahweh, then he tears down those other fences. So that's what I'm going to stop with all that. And then I explained that the epidermis, okay, which is all three layers of our skin, we have doorways within chet. So, the doorways are our skin breathing, but then we have the fence. That is the skin that's protecting the inside from the outside elements. All right, let's go to the next one. This is one of my favorites right now. Tet, okay? So on my other video, I briefly pointed out Tet and Dalet. But Tet right here actually is a model of some of the other pictographs. So it's not just Dalet. We have 4 Dalets, but we also have Ta in the middle of this one. So this right here is like a saying, X marks the spot. Tet has to do with being a basket. So if you weave a basket together, you intertwine everything, okay? Baskets gather. They contain and they store whatever. So when you go to the grocery store, okay, you get yourself a cart, which is a basket, and you go to the aisles and you pick the things that you desire and you put them in that basket or cart. And Yeshua did the same thing. He grabbed the basket, and he fed people manna, and he caught fish, and he put it in the baskets, okay? But Tet also has to do with generosity, with being generous and giving and receiving, but not giving to be seen by man, okay? And then the more adult concepts are, this has to do with the womb of man, okay? So X marks the spot, and you can see this in negative models as well. Negative models where you see adult stores, XXX, that's where we get the word SEX. You see adultery in that, but X marks the spot of where man is conceived, which is within the womb. And you could kind of look at this as the belly button of a woman's womb. And when the seed, which is noon, we'll get to that one a little bit, entered the woman, it produced a child. So that's the point of conception. This also has to do with being a compass of direction. So if you were a seafaring man and you're traveling the seas, you would have had a compass, and it would show you which way to go, north, south, east, or west. It would show you the direction in which you were going. This also has to do with the mark of Yeshua. And I'm not really going to go into that too much, but the mark of Yeshua is when you're digging for gold and you're looking for your treasure, you have a treasure map, you have a compass, and it is taking you to the mark where your treasure is. And so Yeshua is the mark to hit. He is the bullseye, if you will, that an archer uses when he pulls back his arm and he releases. He wants to hit that mark. If you don't hit the mark, you miss it. Okay? That's what we want to do in our lives. We want to hit the mark of Yahweh in Yeshua. All right, the last one I want to discuss with this is, this also is the model for the Zidduch calendar. Okay? So each doorway is the 4 seasons. And it also has to do with the stars and the Shamayim and the constellations and where they are placed, because this is a model of the tabernacle, and where the 12 tribes were. You had 3, 3, 3, and 3, and in the middle it was the Levites, and I could go into that a lot more. Abba showed me that Levite, the tribe of Levite, is the pictographs Lamed Beit, and that is the word for your heart, basically, and love. And that was in the center of where they were doing sacrifices to Yahweh. This is where we sacrifice ourselves to Him, which is in the heart of man. I'm not going to go any more into that, but it can get pretty deep. And so you got to get your spiritual shovels out and start digging. But this also has to do with the sons of light, which is what the Zidduch calendar is based off of. Those that are worshiping Abba in light and truth. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm missing here. But if we do not hit our mark for the seasons, and then we miss our appointments with Abba Father Yahweh. So just like on our calendars that we put up to, oh, I got this appointment today. Well, we have spiritual appointments that we're supposed to make with our Maker. And those are the feasts, the Moedim. And when we miss the mark of the appointed season in which we are to worship Him on these days, it's just like missing our appointment for something very important. Okay, it's kind of like you miss your appointment and your house gets taken away from you because you missed that appointment. When we miss our appointments with Abba Father Yahweh, then we have missed His mark. Okay, so I guess that's all I need to say with that one. This video is going to be a lot longer than I was thinking. I'm at 46 minutes, so I think I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to have to continue on with the other ones because there is quite a bit of information to share with all of these, and I didn't think it was going to take me that long, but surprise, here it is. So enjoy. There'll be a part 2, and that one will start off with Yod, which is the first pictograph in Abba Father Yahweh's name, his Shem. Okay. Shalom, chavarim.